Springfield, it's Dominique Gabriella, and you are watching Behind the Scene. And today we have Tom Lovato. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
So let's start off with what kind of music you play and how you got into music to begin with.
Well, these days I refer to myself as a contemporary Christian artist. Mm-hmm. Although, if you compare exactly what you're hearing on the radio with what I'm doing, they're probably a little slightly different angle that I come from. Mm-hmm. But it's all original Christian music. And but when I'm playing out, like here in Springfield, it's not uncommon that I'll go to a place and play for 2 or 3 hours, and I'll start off with the 60s and 70s. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in that era. I love the Motown era. I love the British invasion and everything that happened in the 60s and 70s, especially the singer-songwriters. And so that's a lot of what I do. And then I'll slowly add in my contemporary Christian music. Artists like Casting Crowns and Zach Williams and Third Day and Chris Tomlin or whoever. There's a lot of favorites out there. And then I'll add my originals. And you'll probably notice a little bit later that I've got some CDs available. So I'll offer those when I'm playing out.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's awesome. So you've been playing since the 60s then? Or you just love music since...
I was born in the 60s.
Yeah.
And I think I picked up the guitar in the 70s. As a young teenager, I got my first paycheck as a dishwasher at JB's Big Boy. And I hopped on a bus with my little brother. We went up into the big city, and we went to a pawn shop, and I bought my first guitar before I knew how to play it. But I knew I wanted to play guitar. So I bought my first guitar for $54 at a pawn shop. And I bought it because it looked cool. Yeah. It was an acoustic guitar, had a sunburst look to it, and I thought, oh, that looks really pretty. But I didn't know anything about guitar. Mm-hmm. And when I got it home and I started teaching myself to play guitar, I thought, wow, this is a hard guitar to play. I didn't have a teacher, so I taught myself. I wasn't a good student, and I wasn't a good teacher.
Oh, man.
And so there I am making up songs on this guitar, and I had written probably 3 or 4 songs. Yeah. And the neighborhood kids liked it. They'd come around and they'd hear me singing and playing this guitar. And then just a few doors down, a guy saw me outside playing. He goes, hey, come over here. We'll play guitar together. So he goes, now first if we're going to play together, we got to get our 2 guitars in tune. I said, what? Our 2 guitars in tune? What does that mean? Uh-huh. You know, I was just about to show you my 2 or 3 songs I've written. He goes, yeah, but first let me tune your guitar and my guitar so they're both tuned the same. I go, well... okay, so his guitar's in tune, is playing nicely. He grabs mine and he goes, oh, this is a little bit out. And he's tuning my guitar for me. I had never tuned it.
Oh,
I didn't know what it was. I didn't know anything. I just took the guitar home and started writing songs.
Yeah.
And so those 3 or 4 songs I wrote, gone. The moment he tuned that guitar up, I'd lost every one of them. And I said, oh, that's it. He just ruined everything I've been working for this past month or so.
Right.
And so I never played guitar with him again. But now I knew I needed to get a guitar tuner. You know, a little, you blow into it, tune your guitar. Yeah, that was back in the 70s, before the electronic tuners came out. And I tuned my guitar. I got a Mel Bay's book number 1, How to Play Guitar. Started learning how to play chords. And now I was a better teacher because I had something to go by. Mm-hmm. And that's where it all got started.
Wow. What a story. So how often have you played around here in Springfield?
Well, I live between Springfield and Branson. Mm-hmm. And so I play mostly in Branson. I work in Branson at Branson Center Stage, and I perform there. And then I've got a lot of gigs out in that direction. I think I'd mentioned to you earlier, I played in Eureka Springs. Right. And so in Springfield, I've been playing here since November at Dublin's Pass. Mm-hmm. I showed up looking for some Irish musicians, and they said, we don't have any Irish musicians. And I go, dang, I wrote an Irish song that needs some Irish musicians for authenticity.
Right.
So anyway, they said, well, why don't you come to open mic night and play some songs for us? Yeah. And I said, all right. So I went, and they hired me right off the get-go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they said, come on in, you can play Friday nights.
Oh.
And so I've been there since November, playing every 2 weeks. And it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun. I get to do everything. No one's balked that I'm doing my own originals or the contemporary Christian stuff. Yeah. And they really like the oldies, the 60s and 70s. So that's going over really well.
Oh, that's really awesome. So how many albums do you have out right now?
Well, I've got 3 CDs. Mm-hmm. The first one came out in the 90s. I was in a Christian rock band called Under Grace in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. So a local Christian rock band in Las Vegas. We put out a 10 CD song with me doing lead vocals, and Victor Manuel doing lead vocals. So 5 songs each on the album. And then we toured around that area, and I think we played out in Arizona a little bit. But back then there were CDs and cassettes.
Right.
You don't see cassettes around anymore. So that was back in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And then I got offered a contract in 2010 by a record label out of Oklahoma called TMG, Tape Music Group. And so we did my first solo CD in 2010, came out in 2011. And 4 years later, they asked me if I wanted to do another CD. They were really happy with that one. Mm-hmm. So I put out I got the contract, another contract for 2014 to do 5 Minutes to 12. That's my latest CD. And that came out in 2015. It just so happens that yesterday I was in the studio over at Mike McAdoo's studio in Branson. Mm-hmm. And I'm putting out another single. This one's going to be for my wife. A song called Honey Darling Sweet Tootsie Pot Pie. And what do you call your nickname for your girlfriend or your boyfriend, right? Uh-huh. So I called her Sweetheart and Honey for a while. She called me Honey Darling Sweet Patootie Pot Pie.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my.
That's a mouthful.
You know she's from the Midwest, right?
Yeah.
So I married a country girl. So I thought I'm going to stick that in a song. And the song is called Yours Truly. So that's going to be coming out next. A little country song. Although I'm not known for country, it's a country song.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I like that. So I know we were talking earlier about you didn't always do Christian music. So do you feel more alive, doing Christian music versus other kind of music? Like, so, you were telling me the story about how you got into it and stuff like that. How does that make you feel with what you used to do versus now? Do you think there's a different response from people just around you?
Well, here's how I feel about Christian music. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of Christian music out there that's good, and there's a lot of Christian music out there that's not so good.
Yeah.
And contemporary Christian, a lot of it is very watered down and weak, doesn't have very much of a strong message to it, but some of it is extremely good. So you just have to pick and choose. It's difficult to label what's good and what's not good. It's all your personal opinion. But as far as moving people, moving them emotionally, that's what I want my songs to do. And so when I write a song, I'm typically writing it from a personal viewpoint, and my heart is on my sleeve. Mm-hmm. I'm letting it all hang out. This is my anguish, and this is my rejoicing at the end of that pain and sorrow when God brought me through this. Mm-hmm. When I could say, Jesus Christ delivered me from drugs. Jesus Christ delivered me from addictions to pornography or whatever. Mm-hmm. Whatever my vice was, he's given me the victory. So I want that strong message to come out, but be sincere. Right. I think we have too much plastic music, if you will, that doesn't say much of anything, right. Doesn't move you much, but maybe it's got a nice beat. Right. Well, I want a message that moves people to action. And so if I'm doing Otis Redding, if I'm doing the Beach Boys, or I'm doing the Beatles, I know that moved me at one time in my life when I was learning those songs and writing them. That meant something to me. Mm-hmm. So when I'm playing at Dublin's Pass or any other venue, I'm doing songs that move me, and they didn't have to have a spiritual message to them. Good music is good music. Right. And rotten music is rotten music. Right. Doesn't have to have a Christian message to it or not. Right. So I play music that appeals to me, that moves me, and hopefully I sing it with enough passion that it moves others.
Somebody else. Yes. Yeah. Yes. So are you in any bands right now?
Yep. As a matter of fact, I'm in the Tom Lovato and Friends band. Musician friends, and so if I need a bass player, I can get on my phone and probably call up 5 different bass players and say, "Are you available at this?" "Oh no, we got my son's birthday's that day." Yeah. Someone else, "Oh, it's my wife's anniversary," and the other one says, "I'm out of town." Go, "Oh, I can make it." So yeah. I've got a number of drummers that will back me up, so I can put together a live band pretty quickly with the amount of friends I have. But rather than just like when we were under Grace,
Right.
we knew it was those 4 members or those 5 members. That was the bass player for that band. Well, here I don't have that. But me and my friends.
Right.
So whoever. So I do play out regularly. At least I have the last 6 years with a saxophone player, Jesse Serrano, with a drummer on cajon and djembe and shakers and tambourines. I mean, the guy's like an octopus. And the 3 of us sing harmony. It's a great little small combo.
Oh,
but it's Tom Lovato and friends. Whoever I can get to come join me.
And do you play up here with your band as well, or just
Yeah, anywhere.
Oh,
Anywhere.
That's awesome.
Anywhere.
That's awesome. Well, let's get to your first song. Can you tell me a little bit about this first song we're going to be hearing?
Yes, the song is called "Come Unto Me," and that is my personal testimony of how I got saved. And it's not so pinpointed. I shared with you exactly how I got saved, but it lets everyone know that's a listener that I was at my last breath, on death's door practically, with the way I was living, and then I was rescued from that. And so it's a passionate plea to get out that praise for what my life turned around and became. And so "Come Unto Me" is an offer. Jesus says, he says, "Come unto me, all you that are weary and heavy laden, and I'll give you rest." And that's where that song comes from.
Oh, wow.
That's what he offered me and he gave me, and I'm still walking in it.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, guys, we're going to get to that song, and we will be right back.
Okay, Tom Lovato doing my original "Come Unto Me," which is on the "You Were Always There" CD. Well, I guess it's been about 25 years ago. My memory fails,
And we are back with Tom Lovato. So that was a wonderful song, wonderful story behind it. That was really cool. So let's talk about the music industry part of, being in the business. It's kind of hard. It's not all singing.
Right.
So how do you go about promoting yourself?
Well, first of all, promotion of yourself is necessary unless you've hired somebody to do it for you. And I just don't got that kind of money. So usually what I'll do is I'll search out places that I want to play that I think will hear my message. And then I'll go talk to the owners directly. And I'll say, listen, this is where I'm playing. This is what they're paying. Are you interested in this in your venue? And then other times, the internet has been a great resource for most people. I picked up a Facebook account about 9 or 10 years ago when my daughter said, we want to be able to send you pictures of the kids, right, Grandpa? And I said, I don't need no stinking computer. So we had to pay off some bills before we even got our first computer. But when we got on Facebook, then all these people came out of nowhere. And they were like, Tom, are you playing anywhere? Are you doing anything? And I thought, oh. And so I was playing in Nixa at a sports bar every Friday night for like 2 years. And the cook said, I'm going to make the Tom Lovato fan club on Facebook. And I said, I'm too old for that. He goes, no, I'm going to make one for you. And then people started gravitating towards it. So instead of people getting on your Facebook page and seeing you mow the yard and how nice it turned out or what you're having for dinner, they go to the Tom Lovato fan club and all they see is just my music, where I'm playing next. And so that's been a good outlet, especially if someone says, well, can I catch you anywhere online? I'll say, if you're on Facebook, go to the Tom Lovato fan club. I picked up a YouTube account some time ago. And so I posted a lot of YouTube stuff. I do a lot of cover tunes, but I'll tell you what, I was downstairs in my basement playing Desperado by the Eagles, and they shot me down. They said, that's it, your copyright infringement. And they said, strike one. And then I got a strike 2 for another Eagles tune I had did. And I thought, well, everyone else is doing this exact same song, and they're not getting canceled. So I deleted a lot of cover tunes I had on there and just kept to my originals. But you can still find some that are still running. But YouTube has been a good resource when people are asking, what do you sound like? Okay, we saw your videos, we like it. You can come play over here. Another one is a website called Reverbnation.
Yes,
Reverbnation. I'm like number 3 locally for this area. And it is a great place to hear the songs off my CD. You can buy them. You can buy them right off the CD, off that website. If you just wanted the solo, like that song we just did, 99 cents, dial it up, it drops into your phone. How cool is that? When we were selling cassettes and CDs, we'd have to get a box of them and pull them out of the back of the car and put them on a table. Here's our merch table, right? T-shirts and hats and posters and bumper stickers we were selling back in the day. So it's kind of nice that the download is a neat thing that's going on. And then another place online is a place called Gig Salad. Gig Salad will, if you got a birthday,
right across the street.
Right across the street here, yeah. So if your 4-year-old's going to have a birthday party and he says, I want a clown, right? Well, you get a hold of Gig Salad and they'll find a clown. And if the next kid says, I want a magician, I want someone to pull a rabbit out of a hat, they'll get a hold of Gig Salad. But if you got a wedding and you need a singer, the wedding singer, right? Well, Gig Salad works for me really well. I've been hired a number of times to go out and perform at someone's wedding. There's a castle in, I think, Fordland, Missouri. It's a beautiful castle. It looks very authentic. Well, I got hired to do a wedding out there.
Oh, wow.
And how great that was. They said, we need you to learn this song by Tchaikovsky. And I went online, YouTube, and I learned it, and I played it for the wedding vows.
Oh,
and then they said, we want you to learn this Billy Joel song off his Piano Man album. It wasn't a single, but it was another great tune on a 12-string. I have a 12-string, so I learned that song. And then they said, we want to walk out of the wedding on our processional and recessional. We want to walk out to Here Comes the Sun. Well, I already know that one.
Yeah.
So it was a great gig. I made some good money. It was in a great location.
Oh, wow.
And that was all through Gig Salad, right across the street.
Oh, yeah.
So so if you want to promote yourself, those are some resources right there online. I think the best resource is probably word of mouth, but you got to talk to the right people. You can't just be talking to your neighbor across the fence.
Right, right. It's not going to work that way.
Yeah.
So do you feel like the difference between Branson gigs and Springfield gigs is a little different?
It is. Branson is more accepting, I think, of any gospel-orientated music. From what I've seen in Springfield, I think it's great that Dublin's passed. Everyone really enjoys my contemporary Christian music. But I think if I went in there and I was singing 4-part harmonies, something from the 30s and 40s, that would go over well in Branson. It may not go so well while people are having a few drinks after work. So I think it's a whole different vibe. I like the artistic community that we have downtown Springfield. The art shops and the different places and coffee shops and what have you, and little small restaurants that say, yeah, we'll have an acoustic guitar player in here. Well, that'd be a nice place to come in and sit down and do exactly what I did here in your studio, as just an acoustic guitar and a vocal. If that comes across well, they're going to drop a little cash in my tip jar, and hopefully the owner is giving me lunch and a wage. So we'll see how that works out.
Right. Well, that's pretty cool. So what else about Springfield do you think has that Branson doesn't have?
Well, I have to tell you, quite honestly, Springfield is a much more metropolis area, so you're going to have a higher rate of crime over here. My concern is always to find places where you can be a positive impact on it. So if you get plugged in and involved with your senator, with your congressman, with your representative, and you can say, listen, this area used to be really nice, now it's starting to go down. What can I do as a citizen to help make it better? And if the government's willing to get in and help you start painting up and tearing down old buildings where crime is going on, you can make a positive effort there. We had a tornado go through Branson just a couple of years ago, right?
I remember that.
and it cleaned out a few buildings that needed to be cleaned out, and so I think reconstruction efforts. I'm concerned about the crime and its hold in the larger cities like Springfield.
Do you think that it affects the music scene because of the crime? Yeah.
Well, I guess that depends, right? I know that there was a cowboy club of some sort, where people were getting shot at. And so I'm not going to frequent a place where I hear it's got a reputation like that, because a stray shot doesn't matter. It's going to affect somebody, and I don't want it to affect me directly. I won't perform in places where smoking is going on inside the venue because I've got to breathe. Usually you're up on a platform, right? You may be a foot off the floor or 2 feet off the floor, and the smoke it's covering the first two half of there. Your head's right in the smoke ring. I don't want to play that, So it's just a matter of preference. I think a lot of places in the cities, they say no smoking inside.
Right.
We got a bar outside, we got a patio outside, and it's great to go and play gigs like that, So
you don't have to,
don't have to inhale that. Secondhand smoke is pretty deadly still.
Right. And you go outside and you smell like it. It's not fun. So with your music, how do you come up with your songs? I mean, what's your writing process?
Well, usually I'm asked like this: do you come with the music first, or do you come with the lyrics first? And it varies. I also play keyboards, and so I might be sitting at my piano playing something and go, oh, that's a nice little lick. What if I do this and do that, and now I've got the music coming first? Or it may be that I remember when I was 16, I was walking. I was still washing dishes, right? Before I got my first guitar. But I would be walking down the road and a melody would hit my head and I'd start singing just as I'm walking or riding my bicycle. I walked more back then, I think. And a song would dance in my head and I go, wow, that's a good song. How can I keep that? And I remember at one time going over to a phone booth and calling the answering machine and singing into the phone so I'd still have that melody. I can't tell you how many number one hits I lost because I didn't have a recorder nearby. And so when the inspiration hits me, I try and catch it at that moment. Right. I try and catch the feeling, the emotion, that I'm feeling at that moment. And if I can't record it, I'll try and write it down, a piece of paper, and usually, you look at that paper the next day and that's garbage, doesn't mean anything. But at the moment, it meant a lot. So catching my inspiration while it's there, I think is what works best for me. And so that's how I try.
It's a good thing that we have phones now.
That's right.
You have recording.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You got a cell phone now. You're never at a loss for something like that.
Yeah, exactly. You have no excuse. Exactly. So with your teaching yourself guitar, what would you give advice to somebody that would love to learn guitar, don't have the money to get
I would say don't teach yourself.
Don't teach
yourself. YouTube is a great resource for beginning guitar players. It absolutely. We didn't have YouTube back then. Okay. I did eventually get a guitar teacher, but by that time I was already writing songs and playing chords, and he wanted to start me back on the Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Oh,
you know? Yeah. And I learned a little bit from him, but I eventually left him. And then it wasn't until many years later, when I was in an institution, that I got an opportunity to play guitar in a classroom setting, and I was forced to learn to tap my foot, count out, and even though I've been writing songs and playing and performing, now I was learning it from the right way, as far as right way, meaning that I was reading notes. I knew that's a C, that's a D, that FACE is the spaces. Every good boy does fine are the lines. And so I would recommend that if you're a beginning student and you want to learn to play guitar, find somebody who's better than you to help you. And then whether they're teaching you chords and you're singing and strumming right away, which is perfectly fine, or if you're tapping your foot and you're learning to read do, re, mi, fa, sol and play it, either way, you're going to find out what works for you. As long as the passion is there, the talent will begin to grow. And that's what you really want. When you lose interest, I used to work at a music store. Yeah. And I remember a dad coming in and wanting to buy a guitar for his son. And his son picks out $2,000 guitar, And I'm saying, Dad, he's only 14 years old. He goes, yeah, but he's a good kid. He mowed yards all summer long. I said, okay, we'll be happy to sell you this guitar. Right. But if he loses interest in 6 months, you can't bring it back here and get that amount of money back out of it. We're not going to pay you $2,000 for that guitar. It loses a lot of value when it walks out the door. And so I would encourage anyone that's beginning to get an inexpensive instrument that it stays in tune. See, that first guitar I bought did not stay in tune. Okay? Yeah. But you get a guitar that will stay in tune, and you get good with that. Right. And then you graduate to a little bit better guitar, and you will appreciate that, I wish I had that old guitar just for memory's sake, but it was not a good guitar. It was not a good guitar.
Just have it hanging on your wall or something,
Yeah. I got a BC Rich Electric hanging on my guitar now from when I was in that Christian rock band. Yeah. And that was a great era for me too.
Awesome. So let's get to your next song.
All right.
Tell me a little bit about that, and we'll get to that one.
Okay. Let me see. The last song was Abundantly of Me. So this was Fallen Companions. Fallen Companions is a song I wrote based on my background inspiration. There's a guy named Ian Anderson in a group called Jethro Tull that I grew up listening to. And I said to myself, boy, that is so cool. It's like Renaissance and rock mixed together. Stairway to Heaven is a lot like that. Stairway to Heaven is a Renaissance song with the flute and the lute and what sounds like a lute and a recorder starting this song off. And I said, I want to write a Christianized song that would be comparable to Stairway to Heaven. And so when I got the inspiration and started writing that song, and I went into the studio, I told the engineer, I want a flute and a recorder to start this song off with just an acoustic guitar. And then it's going to get a rockier version. And because I don't have the skills to pull off the amazing lead solo that ends Stairway to Heaven, I thought I'm going to do that vocally. And so here at your studio, I'm singing that song, all four parts, one right after the other. But they actually blend and have counter melodies to each other. So I hope that comes across well.
And what album was that one on?
That's on the 5 Minutes to 12 CD.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to get to that, and we will be back.
and the mercy abounds with forgiveness to all. Yet they turn away their ears as he lovingly calls. My Lord has appointed that I sing this song to the lost and the weary who have not a home. For the tired and the thirsty will surely receive as they cast away their pride and humbly believe. Singing, come, come, all your life is undone as you walk toward the dark and away from the sun. Won't you come, come and let go of your sin? He's ready to pardon, forgive and to cleanse. There are two roads, one narrow, one wide. One leads to destruction, the other to life. Not many will travel on this narrow road, but the few who are willing to surrender their load. Singing, come, come, all your life is undone as you walk toward the dark and away from the sun. Won't you come, come and let go of your sin? He is ready to pardon, forgive and to cleanse. And it hurts me to know as I travel this road that my fallen companions have simply let go. And the mercy abounds with forgiveness to all. Yet they turn away their ears as he lovingly calls all.
So that song, you said that there was harmony. So you're telling
Yeah,
us to,
four-part harmony.
if we could figure it out, in our head, you singing all four parts. It's pretty cool. I like it. I like it a lot. So let's talk about, you being in the Christian scene down in Branson. Do you ever feel like that kind of scene could be up here in Springfield?
Absolutely. There's no reason why it may already be up here. I just may not be aware of it. I work down there. I'm heading south when I get up in the morning, and I come into Springfield occasionally. But yeah, there are probably a number of venues that are already playing some Christian music. I know a friend of mine, Bert Smith, in the Walk. He's blues. I mean, totally blues, and he plays out here from time to time. I can't tell you the venues he's playing at, but he's been out this direction. Stephen Brown is another friend of mine that plays out and about, and I know he's doing some stuff with the veterans. him and another Carrie Joe, who's a ventriloquist, Carrie Joe Miller. And so, yeah, they're in Springfield playing. My record label back a few years back, they got me a gig at a coffee shop called the Dancing Mule.
Yeah, I know that place. Yeah.
So I played up over there. And then I've been hired to do other gigs in the area through Gig Salad.
Yeah, we had Young Zealous on, and he's a Christian R&B.
Oh, yeah. See, well, that's just it. Every genre has got a Christian counterpoint to do it.
Right.
At our church in Las Vegas, there's a punk group called One Bad Pig, and literally there was a mosh pit.
Yeah.
And they were picking up chairs and hitting each other with them, and they got things poking in their face, and the whole night, it was crazy. And when it was all over, we had several broken chairs, but everybody had a good time with this Christian punk group. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, but it just so happens that I've been leading worship down in Branson West at Lakewood Church for the last 16 years, and I was in Las Vegas playing there for about 14 years in the worship, and we moved to Poplar Bluff, and I played for a couple of years there. So I got 30 years of leading worship just about every Sunday, every Wednesday for the last 30 years. Oh, wow. So the contemporary Christian music that's been going on all the time is stuff I've been playing.
Wow.
And so there's Christian music everywhere. Right here in Springfield, I have no doubt there are great churches that have got great music. Could be bluegrass music, Christian music. It could be Southern gospel. It could be Christian rock. Right. I was just up here a couple of days ago at Glendale Christian Church, and the youth pastor is a new friend of mine. He's a songwriter, and we just got together a few days ago. So yeah, there's lots of good Christian music happening in Springfield, but whether it's right here in the center of Springfield, we just got to find a venue to get that happening in. And a lot of people don't want to play in a secular venue,
right?
And so I'm of the mind that if you got a Christian message, it needs to go everywhere, not just to the church.
Right.
That's a fallacy to think that your Christian music only belongs in a Christian church. You don't get any more Christians if you don't expose everyone else to it.
Yep. Yeah, I had a friend that he was very involved with the, not James River, not the church, the main thing that's up here, but he was a musician too, and they caught wind that he was playing around at secular places, and they were going to kick him out.
Yeah.
Man, and I was wondering why I don't really hear Christian music, out and about. And that's what he told me, is because a lot of them, if they work for the church and stuff, it looks bad on them if they're playing at a secular place.
Yeah. So some of us Christian warriors are a little bit more daring than others, and if you don't have the faith to go into a place like Dublin's Pass, which is a restaurant, and a pub, restaurant and a pub. If you don't have the courage to do that, well, then don't go over there and do it. Right. If you have the faith to go in there and courageously proclaim the gospel, that's what I do. And I've always had the idea that if the owner said to me, Tom, the only thing missing is you taking up an offering. Well, with a tip jar, I guess I am.
Yeah, right.
With a tip jar, I guess I am.
Yeah.
But nobody's kicked me out. Nobody's given me a problem. In fact, a lot of people have come up and shook my hand and said, that was great. I'm glad I liked it. So it's just a matter of pick your battles where your faith allows you to handle it. And if your faith allows you only to do Christian concerts in Christian venues, well then let that be that. Christians, they all have ups and downs, and they need a little inspiration. Right. And there's nothing wrong with that. So if you're playing for the Christian church or you're playing for the Christian community, that's okay.
Yeah.
But my warrior path leads me out into different territories.
Well, that's what Jesus did too.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm going to go out and meet that leper and tell him about Jesus. There's a healing available.
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. So do you ever, when you go out to shows yourself, is there anything that you've noticed a venue doing or a musician doing that you just really like that they did that? It's just something that stuck out, like etiquette. So something that a venue did for a musician, or even a venue done for you, that just stands out.
Well, I think that if the owner of a venue gets involved with the musician, he feels like he's not working through a middleman. If the owner comes up and shakes your hand and tells you, boy, this was a good night, you brought in a lot of people, I really appreciate you, that means a lot. But if the owner is distant and you're just dealing with a go-between, I think it holds a lot of weight for me, if I can get a chance to make an impact, to know that the owner thinks this is good. Sometimes the owner lives in another state. Someone else is running their business. So that's unavoidable. But I think the personal touch is the best thing. I think if you have an MC, right? If you got a venue and they're doing open mic night, if you've got a good MC, it can make all the difference in your performance, all the difference in setting you up to come on stage. Right. I watched this guy during rehearsal. He's great. You're really going to like him. Tom Lovato, and it means so much more than, and now, what is his name? Tom Lovato.
Butchering the name.
So there are lots of different ways a venue can make itself so much better by doing their homework and getting to know the musician or the performer or the band personally. It's just do your homework and then everyone benefits. It's a win-win for everybody.
Right, absolutely. So is there anything, just through your music career that you've had to overcome, and how did you overcome that?
So I mentioned I had a record label that offered me a contract 2010, and I had to invest pretty heavily in that to get my first CD out. You Were Always There, that song I sang earlier, Come Unto Me, came off that album. I was very happy with that album, very happy with that, the way it recorded it came out. And then 4 years later, they offered me another contract. That was the 5 Minutes to 12 CD. Well, a couple years after that, I got wind that our record label, Christian record label, was in trouble with the law. Turns out they had been stealing money from the artists. They weren't getting all their royalties back. But who knew, right? If you're a new artist like myself, you don't know if you've got a bunch of fans in Germany or Japan that are buying up your stuff, but the record label knows it, and they send you a little bit of your royalties and keep the rest for themselves. Well, apparently this was going on, and they weren't just a record label, they were also a publisher. And so people that wrote Christian books, they were getting ripped off too. Oh my God. And so the state of Oklahoma slapped a big lawsuit on them. They had to fork out $800,000 to start paying back some of the artists and authors. And so, that was a big thing to overcome. What a shock when a friend of mine said, hey, that record label you're on? Yeah, they're going down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but what can you do? I still own the songs, but now that the record label is going down, they were no longer giving me my worldwide distribution that I had before. So a lot of people do nowadays. They get on CD Baby and they sound their own CDs. And so I met another guy who said, I can get you on all the sites again. And so I have a Spotify account. You can find me on Spotify. CD Universe. I mean, there's just Tidal. There's just tons and tons of Napster, tons and tons of labels out there that you could find my music on. But it's usually... with the record label, they had one entity that just fed it to everybody. Wow. And so...
now you have more control.
Yeah, well, now if I want... And people aren't buying CDs, they're buying downloads, right? But I still like to have a stack of CDs to offer somebody if they're like, oh, that was so great. My CD player in the car still works,
Right.
I'd like to buy that CD and hear that song again. So I try and keep some. And so I have to get them made locally, but not through the record label. And so that's how I'm recording these days. But that was something to overcome. That's the music business.
Yeah.
That's the music business. Sometimes you get a good deal. Sometimes you get a bad deal. The Beatles, one of my favorite groups, they were taken advantage of. Their manager, Brian Epstein, was not that good. But he had the best band in the world.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do with it.
But they lost a lot of money. And when he passed away and the Beatles were like, now what do we do? Right? Yeah. They tried forming their own label, Apple, and it was a lot of bad mistakes learning if you don't know the business. But that's just it. When you get into music and you want to make it as a living, earning, and that's your dream and your desire, well, you have to be prepared for the fact that some people will be taking advantage of you, and some people will have your best interests at heart. It's just hard to figure out one from the other.
Yeah, that is the truth. So is there anything else that you'd like to share that maybe I just did not think about asking you?
Well, let me just repeat. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, and now I see. And all that is a result of me finally humbling myself. You know, most musicians, I think, that are any good, and most singers that sing well, pride is one of the biggest things that creeps into their lives. And pride will take you down.
Right.
Pride is the reason why Satan got kicked out of heaven, you know? And so if we could find our place more humble, more willing to yield to God's leading, I think he can do more with us and for us and through us. And I think that's the lesson I'm constantly learning, is to say less of me and more of others, right?
Absolutely. So when are your next shows?
Well, I'm performing every Sunday in Branson West at Ignite Church at Lakewood. See, our pastor passed away this last November.
Sad.
Yeah, so we've been searching for a pastor, and we just got a new pastor, Pastor Rob Berenger, and he's come to our church, and he brought his church with him. So you hear about church splits, but how often do you hear about a church merging?
Wow.
Yeah, so this is a beautiful work of God. And so I'm on the worship team with his wife and other musicians and singers, and it's a whole new thing.
Awesome.
I'm excited about what the future has to hold for that. I still perform at Branson Center Stage. I usually perform there as with a band, Tom Lovato and Friends Band. So you can expect those dates to be coming up. I expect that Reverbnation will offer me opportunities to express where I'm playing at. The Tom Lovato Fan Club on Facebook is another. And Gig Salad always contacts me every couple months or every couple weeks, and they're saying, "Do you want to play over here?" And I'll drive over there, and I'll do a birthday party as I've done before, or a wedding, or a reception. So, but if you want to find out where I'm playing next, it'll be on the Tom Lovato Fan Club on Facebook, and it'll be on my Reverbnation page. Just go to www.reverbnation.com/Tom Lovato.
Okay. And so if anybody wants to book you, they would go to the Facebook page?
They could contact me either of those locations. They could hire me through Gig Salad. They could contact me on Facebook, or they could leave a message.
Oh, yeah. Awesome. So let's have your last song play us out, and so just tell me a little bit about that one.
All right. So that song is my tribute to Chuck Berry and the Beach Boys.
Yeah.
Now I'm just one person.
Yeah.
So in the studio I can sing one harmony line and then come back and sing another, and get all the oohs and ahs that make up a Beach Boys song. And when I wrote this song, it was actually inspired by a friend of mine in Indiana. And we were both playing guitar, and he played this lick, and I go, "Ooh, that's a pretty cool lick. That sounds a little bit like Chuck Berry." And he goes, "Well, yeah, it's just something I came up with." I said, "Do you mind if I use that? I'll write a whole song around that." And so the song is called "Abundantly Is Me," and that's the song we're going to hear. It comes from the verse in the Gospel of St. John 10:10, where it says, "The thief cometh not but to steal, kill, and destroy. But I have come that they might have life, and life more abundantly." So that's the promise to me. Okay. Abundantly is me. That's the name of the song.
Awesome.
Let's hear it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being part of the show, and love to have you back sometime and hear you, because I know I've heard you before when you played at Lucky's. Now that we were talking, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember.
There it is.
So, but thank you again. But guys, thanks for tuning in with Behind the Scene. Until next time, we're going to just have him play us out. Thanks.